Good morning, everybody. My name is Miss Gonzalez, and I work at South High School. And I'm joined by, well, a ton of our staff, but also Miss Jackie from North High School here to present to you guys today.
Good
And
morning.
we're going to be talking to you about a little bit of an introduction to financial aid. And again, I work for Mass Ed Co. On here, I listed our website so you can make yourself acquainted with that. But I also wanted to point out that I borrowed some slides from MIFA, and MIFA is the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority, and they are one of our partners. And so they have lovely content. So you'll see some of that, and you'll see their logo on those slides. Next slide, please. All right, and so let's start with the basics, right? First off, what is financial aid? So financial aid is money given to students to help pay for college, right? And so that financial aid will come in three main types. It will be either grants and scholarships, which is what we call gift aid. So it's free money for students. It can also be federal work study, which is a program where the student has to actually work on campus in order to get that funding. Or it can be in the form of a federal student loan. Right. And so I always like to point out that loans are financial aid. Although students don't like to get loans and parents don't like to see them, that is one of the forms of financial aid that the students will get. Next slide. All right, and so when we're talking about financial aid, it's important to talk about both merit-based aid and need-based aid, which are some of the reasons why students would get their financial aid, right? And so mainly financial aid is given based on need. So most of the financial aid you're going to see is going to be that need-based aid, but there is also merit-based aid. And this is financial aid that's awarded to students based on the recognition of their achievements, be it things like academic, artistic, or athletic awards and things. And so when the student fills out their admissions application, right, they're providing the college with a ton of information, their transcript, their activities, maybe awards, and different things that they've gotten throughout their years. And the college is taking a look at all of that and possibly giving them some of this merit-based aid, right? So it's very important to note that some of it is renewable, but sometimes it's not. And so what that means is when something is renewable, you can get it throughout your 4 years in college. So if it's renewable, you can get it your sophomore year, junior year, and so on, as long as you fulfill the requirements that they're giving you in order to renew the grant or scholarship. If it's not renewable, you're only going to get it for that first year, and then you won't see it again the next year. Okay. It's merit-based aid is not offered at every college, so it's really only some institutions have the funding, unfortunately, to give students merit-based aid, and so you'll see that you can find out more information on that on the college websites. They're going to be a really good source for you to find out a lot of information, so make sure you're visiting the college websites. Sometimes there are separate applications, but for the most part, I think that a lot of it is coming from the admissions. I know that like we were on a virtual tour last Friday with Holy Cross admissions, and they were talking about their Ellis scholarship, right? And that's something that they give to students based on merit. And they look at the whole admissions application in order to pick who's going to get that scholarship. All right. And so the need-based aid, again, it's mostly what you'll see is going to be need-based financial aid, and that's going to be based on the family's financial need. It is determined by the standardized formula in the FAFSA application, and that's where it includes those grants, the loans, and the work study that we mentioned on the previous slide. It's important, again, to note that you have to be making satisfactory academic progress, right? So whether it be merit-based aid or need-based aid, the student does have to continue to get good grades and to complete all their courses and not drop classes and all of that kind of stuff, right? In order to get funding for their next year. Next slide, Jackie. All right, so this slide is another slide from MIFA, and I just wanted to point out where are some of these sources of financial, right? Well, where will you get this money? So you can get that either from the federal government, from the state of Massachusetts, as well as from the colleges or universities, and that's that institutional aid that we talk about, and also from other agencies, and that's going to be through scholarship search. So it's very important that students take a little bit of time, if they can, to do some scholarship work, right? Because it's an extra step and it's other applications and it's more paperwork, but you could be securing some funding for yourself for school. On this slide, you can see a few websites. They're all really good for you to be familiar with and visit, like Student financialaid.gov for your FAFSA, as well as the OSFA site from Mass State Aid, where you can learn more about like the Mass Grant and all of that stuff.
Yep.
Next slide, please.
And also just to add for the scholarship part, here in Worcester, we do have the Greater Worcester Foundation, which is a big, it gives you different scholarship opportunities. So all you have to do is just complete one application, and then you'll be eligible for the scholarships in Worcester. Also, before we go to the next slide, do you guys have any questions or any comments to add?
Thank you, Jackie. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Feel
You can
free to
type
shout
them
out
in
any
the chat.
questions.
Type them in the chat. All right,
All right.
keep going for now.
Okay.
I know this is a lot of information and it can be a little bit overwhelming, so feel free, stop me anytime, or just, hold on to them, but make sure you ask the questions because we want to make sure that you guys know what's going on. So here is just a slide about the federal direct student loans. This is another slide that I borrowed from MIFA. And this is basically just to really highlight the loans because, again, students are getting loans. They're going to be offered student loans, and this, these are the important things they need to know about these federal direct loans, right? So when you apply for the FAFSA and you're eligible for these loans, the student is the sole borrower, so there is no credit check required. The student will be offered these amounts, which you can see here, the annual loan limits for freshman year, $5,500, and sophomore year, $6,500, and so forth. The loans would come in both subsidized and unsubsidized loans. And I can explain real briefly what that means. Basically, a subsidized loan means that the government is paying the interest throughout the time that the student has the loan, and therefore the loan is not increasing, right? Because the interest is being paid. An unsubsidized loan, the government is not paying the interest for the student, and so it is accruing a little bit of interest, and it is increasing in the amount that the student will owe at the end, okay? Here is the interest rate, which was for 2019-2020. I know that there's a new rate. If it's out there, didn't have the second to check it, but it's definitely available information. It usually stays right around the same. Important to note though, for these federal direct student loans is the repayment plans. So they do have a lot of good repayment plans for students, right? So you don't have to pay while you're in school, which is called deferment, right? So you're not paying while you're in classes. You also have multiple options to pay once you come out of, once you graduate and you enter repayment. And usually the way that works is after graduation, you have 6 months, and then after 6 months, your payments start, right? And so at that point, you have the option to stay in the standard repayment plan that they've put you in, or you can call the loan servicer and talk with them about the options that you might be able to enter in an income-based repayment plan or different plans that they have in place based on your income or different things that are going on. There's also forbearances and deferments once you're out of school. So if you're not making money or things like that, you want to contact your servicer to make sure that you don't have any problems with that. But what's important to note is that if you were to borrow these loan limits that they offer you through the FAFSA for every year, you'd be at about $27,000 max for the 4 years, right? And that's an estimated payment of about $300 a month for 10 years. And that's in the standard repayment plan, right? So when you graduate, if you took that 27, they'll say about $300 a month for that first 10 years. If for some reason you can't make that amount of payment, or it seems like it's too much, well, that's when you want to contact them, right? And make sure that you make changes to that, because there are a lot of options. Also, I like to point out here that this is just for the federal loans. So if you fill out the FAFSA and you get these loans, this is the amount that you could possibly take out and you could possibly owe. But with the cost of college and how high debt sometimes students end up taking, I just always like to point out that this may not be the only loans that a student ends up taking out, or a family does, right? So it's important to note that.
And also one thing to add, so for me, when I graduated, I was looking for jobs. So what I did was I actually joined this program, which you guys can reach out to me. It's called AmeriCorps. And basically you get to work for, it could be a year or 2 years. And it's basically a community service. So you can work in the school, you can be a mentor, you can work in the hospital, anything. And then once you're done with our program and you complete all the requirements, and then the government will give you $5,000. It could be different right now, but that's what they gave me. And then it went towards my federal loans. So that's how I was able to reduce the cost for my federal loans. So if you guys have any more question about the AmeriCorps program, you can reach out to me and then I'll help you with that as well. So it's a really good program to do.
Yeah, and they have other like public service loan forgiveness and different things. Like I have a family member who's a teacher. She just recently got all her loans forgiven for teaching in certain high schools. So there's a lot of things for these federal loans in place.
Yes.
All right, and so here, just a little bit, a few things to point out for you to remember. I want to make sure that you're checking your deadlines and you know what is required of you at each school that you're applying for, right? Because sometimes, you know, every school is different, what they're going to want from you, whether it's the FAFSA or the CSS, which Miss Jackie's going to talk about later, or if they're asking for other forms. So you want to make sure you know what do you need to complete. Also, early action and early decision deadlines are often in October and November, right? So some of them may have already passed or very close to coming up. Most of the standard deadlines for financial aid, though, are typically in February and March, right? So you want to make sure that you're not submitting any late applications. You want to make sure that you complete everything on time. It's very important because once something is late, then you're not necessarily eligible for financial aid, right? And then at that point, it's up to the school whether if they have anything left, if they want to help you or not. So don't submit late, make sure you get it in on time. Another big point of mine is to write down your username or passwords, especially like your FSA ID for FAFSA. It's not as easy as you think to reset, so it's good if you can have it in a nice safe place, as well as like your College Board username. You'll need that throughout, and different like when you set up portals in the college websites, you want to write those type of things down. If it's easily accessible, it's going to be easier for you when you're going through all these forms and things that you have to do. Any questions on any of that, guys?
No questions yet, but don't be shy.
Yes. All right. Next slide, Jackie.
Okay. Okay, so here we're just going to get into just the different types of application for financial aid. And the first one is FAFSA. I know that you guys have been hearing us chasing you guys down for FAFSA, sending you guys emails. So this is why it's really important. So basically FAFSA is a free, one second here. So it's a free application for federal student aid, which is required by all colleges. You can complete it now. So you're gonna use your FSA ID, which is your username and your password. And it both your parent and your student, you need this information. So you can use the app, which is right here, and then also you can go on the website to complete the FAFSA. So that's why it's very, very important right now to set up an appointment with your GEOP advisor or your talent search advisor and come to us so we can help you complete this FAFSA early now, so you don't have to wait until next year and you're stressing to complete this FAFSA. And here is just a list of things that they will ask you, such as your student citizen status, your date of birth, social security number, and also when you're completing your FAFSA, it will ask you the type of colleges where you want to go to. So you can list, so for example, you can put QCC, you can do Framingham, you can put Boston University. So because what they're going to do is all the colleges that you list on the FAFSA, they're going to send this information to those colleges, and then that will determine how much money they can give you. Also for the parent information, they're going to ask you if your parents are married, same-sex parents, and any other parents who live with you who are married or not. And then also going to ask you the number of people in the household and how many children, or if you have any siblings, or how many people live in your house. So this is certain information that they're going to ask you when you're completing your FAFSA.
Jackie, real quickly, I just want to add on that parent info. You can go back 1 second. So the parent info, what just want to highlight there that it's either if your parents are married, they're going to want their information. If it's a same sex couple that's married, they'll want their information, right? But if they're divorced, then they're just going to want the custodial parent that you live in. So divorced parents you're going to live with, it's going to be whatever household you're in, right? That's that parent. And if they're remarried, then their spouse. But otherwise, it would just be that parent. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. And then here is just the information, financial information, which include your student income and parents. So for example, if you work over the summer or if you're working right now, And if you've noticed also, we're posting some jobs in the Google Classroom. So please apply, because when you're completing a FAFSA, it will ask you for this information. Let me see here. So both your taxed and untaxed, and then for parent as well, and student will include saving, checking account, investments. One thing to point out, do not include primary home, value of retirement, and value of small family business. So don't include that, but mostly like your saving or checking account, that's important too.
So can you highlight here, and it's on the slide, to complete your FAFSA this year, they're looking at the income in your family for 2019. Those are the taxes that you're going to use. They do prior year is what it's called.
Right.
So if you're working now, it's very important that you do save that W-2 that you're going to get in a month or so for next year. But to complete your FAFSA right now, you're looking at income for you and your parents of 2019.
Yep. And if you don't have a job, let's say you didn't work over the summer, it's okay. It's just, they just want that information, but if you don't have it, don't stress about it. Okay, so another financial aid application is called the CSS profile, and this is a little bit more advanced compared to the FAFSA, and it's required by some colleges and university. So when you go on the cssprofile.org, you can check which school is going to require you to complete this application. So not all, so mostly it's usually private schools such as Boston University. So those schools, they're going to ask you to complete this application. So it's $25 for the first school, and then $16 for each additional school. So if you have 10 schools that are all private, it's going to be $16 each. It's available October 1st. For the non-custodial parent, we'll need to submit a separate profile. So for example, if your parents were divorced, and let's say maybe one of them moved to a different state, they're still going to need that parent's information as well. Kathia, did you want to add anything to this part?
Yeah, I'll add that this is a product of the College Board, right? So you need your College Board username and password in order to complete this application. And it can get a little pricey, but there is sometimes a fee waiver. It's automatic, so we wouldn't know at the beginning, right? It just comes in at the end if you get a fee waiver or not. And just to note that MIFA does offer a lot of webinars, and where they can go into like every specific question, and you can find that on their website, which is also highlighted on the slide.
Yep, and also you can come to us as well for if you have any questions or just need help completing this.
Yeah, we can definitely help you get this done if you need to do it.
Yeah, because it does take a long time, so definitely come to us and we can sit down with you and your parent as well to complete this application.
And I would like to just add one more thing in there. And Jackie did say it is required by some, but not all private schools. It's generally schools that have institutional money of their own to give. So Boston College, Boston University, Holy Cross, Northeastern. It's very important that you go to the financial aid section of the colleges you're applying to figure out if they're a profile school. Because if you are applying to a profile school and you do not fill out the profile by the deadline, it puts you to the back of the line. So imagine if I had a stack of $100 bills and I had 200 people waiting in line to get some of that money. Eventually, my money's going to run out and you're not going to get it. So you don't want to be at the back of the line. You want to be at the front of the line, which is why you've got to make sure if you have a profile school that you're finding that out now and starting that application now.
Thank you. Do you guys have any questions? I can't really see the chat.
No question.
No questions? Okay. You guys are quiet today. I know it's Monday.
You're just doing such a great job of explaining it.
Okay, so after you apply, I know a lot of students, they feel like after they completed their FAFSA or the CSS profile, then they're done with financial aid. So technically you're not done because this is just the first step. So after you complete, colleges and state will receive your information electronically. And then they may request certain information verification documentation to prove that everything that you submitted was correct. So that's why it's very, very important to check your email, read your email. If you have any questions, come to us, ask your parents. Don't just ignore any emails. Check your mail and respond, because they do have a deadline. So don't wait until, if the deadline is March 18, make sure you have everything before March 18. Don't just submit on that day. So that's why it's very, very important to check your emails and your mail as well. So for more verification, so when you will get like an email, let's say, for example, you get an email that's asking you to send additional information. It does not mean that your FAFSA or the CSS profile was wrong or there's something incorrect. It's just that they just want to prove that everything that you submitted is accurate, such as your tax return or any bank statement. So the government, they just want to see that everything that you submitted is matching with what they have. But it does not mean that anything's wrong. This is just, it's a normal process. So don't panic or anything, just come to us. We can read it, the email with you, and we can help you.
So what happens if they ignore this, Jackie?
So if you ignore this, it's going to delay, the time for you that you'll be eligible for financial aid. That's why you have to check the deadline and do it as soon as you can. Don't wait, because it will prevent you from getting financial aid. And we don't want you guys to go to school with not enough money when you had the chance to complete this information.
Yeah, like Miss Jackie said, if you don't complete the verifications, it would technically mean that your file is incomplete, and so they don't have to give you financial aid because verification is a part of the process, right? So you submit the information to them, they look it over, and they ask of forms and things of you, and then you have to submit that to them again, and then once they relook at everything, then they can give you an award. But if they don't get a chance to look at those documents they're asking for, they don't go on and give you an award. They just stop the file right then and there. And we don't want to see that happen, but sometimes it does happen and students get really behind just because, like Miss Jackie said, they didn't check their email. I mean, you literally get a message from the people telling you, hey, we need you to double check your application, or we're missing something from you. And you have to log back in, like it says on that last bullet, log into the college web portals and check to see, oh, am I getting a message from Amherst? Does Amherst need me to fill anything out? And if they do, then you have to go into the financial aid side and maybe print out a form and complete that form, and then send it back to the college, right? So it's a lot of steps and a lot of things that need to be done. But if you don't do it, you kind of just applied for nothing because the application stays in limbo. It's not fully complete.
Yeah, and it can get confusing and overwhelming. So sometimes you can come to the office, well, not right now, but like we can do a Zoom meeting with us, and you can call the financial aid, and we can help you answer those questions or ask specific questions on what exactly they need. So again, use us as much as you can.
And chances are that we have dealt with that verification in the past, possibly from even that school, because we do this every year with a lot of students, right? So just don't feel like I'm not going to get financial aid, or I did something wrong, or I don't know what to do. Just always reach out, and we'll try to help you get through that.
Okay, so this slide is just basically all the advisors for Gear Up and also Talent Search. So you can see all the advisors, their contact, email. So again, please, please, please reach out to us. Don't be shy. Ask so many questions, because we want to make sure. Go ahead.
FAFSA Day, Jackie, just highlight that they can use FAFSA Day too. If you can't get with one of us, there's this other option here too.
Yep, I think we had one on yesterday, sorry, we had a FAFSA Day as well. So this is really, so you can go to fafsaday.org to see the dates of when they're gonna have that.
And that's just basically a day that they're doing FAFSAs all day. You could log on and they would take care of it and help you do your FAFSA too.
Okay, and then this is just a fun little thing. So we do appreciate you guys coming in every Monday to participate, ask questions. I know you guys are a little bit shy today, but that's okay. So what you can do right now is just enter your name in the chat, and you'll be eligible. We'll put you in a raffle, and then you'll be eligible to win a Gear Up swag bag. So again, thank you so much for coming. And do you guys have any questions or anything? It doesn't have to do with FAFSA, it can be anything else, but feel free to ask questions right now.
Let's see. People are putting their names right now.
Awesome, thank you.
Any students from South here?
Okay. Any questions?
So just remember, everybody, those first slides you saw where it talked about what financial aid is, the loans and the scholarships and the grants. You don't get those until you submit this FAFSA form. This is how all of that starts. This is why FAFSA is so important. All of our contact information was on the slide just before this. We'll put it, yes, there we go. So you can take a picture. You should at this point have it, but if you don't, here it is again. And we hope that you reach out to us to schedule your appointment today. And I don't see any questions.
Wow, you guys are good. So you guys know about FAFSA.
And we're almost at the cutoff, right? 10:45? Was that it, Taryn?
Yes.
All right, well, again, thank you guys so much for coming today and listening to us talking about Intro to Financial Aid. And if you have any more questions, please reach out to us for additional help. And I hope everyone have a good day. And again, thank you for coming.